How's the positioning? Better hurry up.
That's best harmony in this room. Best harmony. Thanks everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you to the Bonus Shalom for another opportunity to get together for Rosh Hashanah. every moment we have as a Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem, as everyone together, lifnei Hashem Elokechem, it makes it more lifnei Hashem Elokechem. The more you're Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem, the more you're standing strong together. Hai mashma, that means it's lifnei Hashem Elokechem. It's pshat of the pasuk. The more you're standing together, the more it's inevitable. That's what happens. It's a mitzvah. It's the reality of standing before the Ribono Shel Olam. So first of all, this is the 20th anniversary of Mishpachat Brat's Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael this week. That's an amazing thing for Shlomo and Judy's coming home, and it's brought so many people home as well. And it should what's that?
It's brought so many home.
It's brought, literally, it's brought, and it's brought people home. Good for him, nice one. And everyone that keeps on walking through these doors should keep on feeling that they're coming home, always. And the doors should expand, and the rooms should expand more and more and more. And just for those of you, I myself, I feel at home here, even though I'm not here that often, but I know there are a lot of faces I've never seen here before. So just you should know that there's a lot that goes on here every single day. There's a lot that's taking place over here. A lot of important, life-changing learning which takes place here on a daily basis. And for all scheduling, for all questions that you have, anything that you need in order to understand how much more is going on, please see Rav Shlomo or Judy afterwards, or Tzipi if she's in the back, or any other person here that looks like they're on fire. That means they've been here already and they know what's going on. So that's definitely that. And I also want to do this shir for the Refuah Shlema of Fega Bas Elta, Refuah Shlema, as well as Michal Moshe Ze'ev Ben Yehudis and Natan Daniel Ben Malka. B'toch Sha'ar Cholei Yisrael. So you know that, what's that? Pretty crazy. You want to sit over here? Huh? Oh, perfect. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. It's perfect time. No, it's perfect.
No, it's perfect. Amazing.
All right.
Goodbye.
So it's brought down in the Sfarim HaKadoshim. It's brought down in the Holy Sfarim that these words, which are read every year, right before Rosh Hashanah, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokechem. Atem nitzavim hayom, you are standing like a monument, like a matzeva today. It's the same gematria as two very important words. It's the same gematria as the words la'amod l'slichot. Atem nitzavim hayom is equal in gematria la'amod l'slichot. That one of the main things that you come together for right now is to gather together to start to say I'm sorry. The rebel in us already knows that he maybe will make it to one slichas, because come on, we're already in a new world, new age. We don't have to say I'm sorry too much. It's all about love now. Saying I'm sorry to someone you love is the most loving thing you could do. So there's two types of people that say I'm sorry. They have something to say I'm sorry about. Mechote veitzecha ad shoev mimecha. The pasuk says, "Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokechem, rasheichem, shiftechem, ziknechem, b'shotorechem, kol ish Yisrael." Every type of person, tapchem, nesheichem, begercha, asher bekerev machanecha, your children, your gerim, those who are amongst you in your machane, in your posse, right? Whoever is with you in your chevra. But then the Torah it specifies two types of people. And we're going to say this now and hopefully tie this together at the end when we come back to all of this. Or don't come back, just take the beginning even higher. From the wood choppers until those who are drawing water. Reb Shlomo says this, the tzaddikim say this incredible, magnificent teaching. Who are the wood choppers and who are the water drawers? It's two different people. Almost two opposites. Mamish, two different people. What is a chotev eitzim? What's a wood chopper? It's someone that has to keep on taking an axe. And he has to keep on chopping down, like that Matis's first album, chop them down, right? He's got to keep on chopping it down. His nisyonos in life, or I would say, the derech, the path, in order for him to be in touch with his soul, is a wood chopping process. You keep on going at it over and over and over again. I know a few people like this. In fact, almost everybody that I know is like this. It's the wood chopping. Ad until who? Shoev meimecha. Those certain neshamas, they come down to the world and they're just drawing water. They're just there to be a be'er mayim chaim, to receive living waters. You have the wood choppers that are working so hard, day in and day out, and then you sometimes meet these neshamas that you're not jealous, but you have holy envy, kinas sofrim. You have this holy, you have this holy kind of jealousy, where you say, I want to get to a place that all I'm doing is I keep on drinking new water, and I keep on flushing out whatever doesn't need to stay inside of me, to keep on being a kli, a receptor, a kli kolet, receiving goodness in this world. And this is how you start the week towards Rosh Hashanah. You know, Shabbos is called Tchila L'Mikra Kodesh, which means whatever Mikra Kodesh, whatever calling of holiness, whatever awesomeness will take place during the week, Shabbos is Tchila L'Mikra Kodesh. It's the beginning of all the holiness which is going to be coming into the later on in the week. So too, can you imagine Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is Tchila L'Mikra Kodesh for the whole year. Can you imagine that? Everything holy that'll take place in your life this coming year is called out on Rosh Hashanah. But we're not at Rosh Hashanah yet. We're still about to approach Shabbos of Nitzavim Kulchem, this standing together to say I'm sorry. And tonight, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, what we're going to be doing right now is to try to really figure out what it is I'm truly saying sorry for. Because it can't just be for my averas. It can't just be for the things that I do wrong. Because I have a chiyuv, I have an obligation to say I'm sorry for all the things that I do wrong on a daily basis. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu. Mechal lanu malkeinu ki fashanu. We sing 3 times a day. So remember, I already gave you a hint. I already just threw out this bone which many of you have heard. I forget which Rebbe says this, but why do we start saying Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu and the Mariv which follows Tfilas Ne'ilah? That Mariv, that first Mariv, when we believe that we're completely cleansed from all the shmutz that might have still stayed on us throughout Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Aseh Tshuva Yom Kippur, you know, the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, Tkiya Gedola, and then you know that guy that always goes, Hurrachum, you know, right after, and you're like, whoa, no, wait a second. So, this is a Rebbe Torah that I say Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu, that Motzei Yom Kippur, because I'm saying to Rebbe Shalom, I'm already asking you mechila for not truly believing that you forgive me. I start off the year, that clean part of me, I'm saying already right away, I said, I'm going to fall into this trap of that you don't like me, God. So I'm stopping that right now, and I'm saying, I'm sorry if I'm still stuck to that energy that you really didn't forgive me. Chas v'chalila, chas v'shalom. God forbid. What we're going to be doing tonight, see, for me, I know that here is the headquarters for Reb Shlomo's Torah in Yerushalayim, which means it's the headquarters for Reb Shlomo's Torah in the whole world. And sometimes when we're lucky, so I'll find something we never did before and save it for the first being learned for the first time here. Chasdei Hashem, there's a piece I just transcribed this morning, so there might still be some tauyot, some mistakes, but if this isn't the week to be modeh on your chataim, to admit your mistakes, and I don't know what week is. But in this piece, I believe it's from 1990, we're going to find out why, I hope, I pray, we're going to tap into why is it that we're gathering together, la'amod l'slichus, to come together to say I'm sorry for something very, very, very crucial, something very, very important. And we're going to throw in a lot of different rebbes, a lot of different rebbitzins, a lot of different things going on, a lot. Just today I heard the most mind-blowing story about one of the Hasidic Rebbe's wives. She's very famous. The Helge Rebbitzin Malka, the Belzer Rebbitzin's wife. If Shlomo spoke about Zalman, speak about her a lot also. Anyway, this should just be a little consolation for Neshama that no matter what's going on, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem. I mashma lifnei Hashem lekechem. So if you could please pass these out, and I say this all the time, even to those who have been here many times, don't read ahead, so that we could really be hayom kulchem, atem nitzavim, so there could really be a walking monument together, flowing through the rest of the Shira B'ezrat Hashem. I didn't forget about you, Yitzchak Meir.
I heard also once that Slach Lanu is we're not forgiving ourselves.
I heard in Galus that when you say Slach Lanu Avinu in Mariv, outside of the country, you just started singing Leshana B'Yerushalayim. So you start saying Slach Lanu Avinu B'Chatanu for being such a fraud, because I just sang right now. I'm going to Yerushalayim, but I'm continuing. Any of you ever hear of Rav Daniel Katz?
Yeah.
Kadosh V'Nora. You ever been to one of his seminars? There's a whole thing on it's called Nirtza. Nirtza is the last simon in Leila Seder. Right? Safun Barech Halel Nirtza. Nirtza means it was accepted. We're still stuck in this, was it accepted or not? Was my Tshuva really accepted or not? So we're going to get out of that tonight, B'ezrat Hashem. All right, did it get to the back? Excuse me?
They still need more.
Oh, they need more. I'm sorry.
I have one more.
So if you can share, that'd be great. All right, I'm gonna try to do as loud as I can. I'm sorry, Chaver in the back. Okay. This is Dynamite Torah tonight, okay? When it comes to the real work a person has to do in this world, we're going from the lowest, trying to get up to the highest. By the way, you know what that's called in Hasidic literature? No, what's the phrase that Chazal speak of?
Dilatata.
Dilatata, very good. Itaruta dilatata. There's an awakening which begins below. All we do on our own is always an awakening from below. We don't start from up on top on our own. Humanity, this is all of us, when we start to work on ourselves, we don't start from up here, because usually when I'm up here, I don't feel like I have to work on myself so much. Who's ran to cry in the Beis Medrash because things were going so good and they just wanted to feel close to God at that moment? So he says, so that's how he starts off. We start from low, trying to get up to the highest. But the way God is doing it is that he starts from the top. And that's called, obviously, Itaruta Dila Eila. That the way the Ribbon Shleilam starts is that he sends this awesome awakening starting up there. That's how the Ribbon Shleilam starts his relationship with us. What does that mean? Reb Shlomo will explain it amazingly. When God took us out of Egypt, he didn't take us out of Egypt and first had us stop being slaves. It's not that we first stopped being low and then we started getting higher, right? It's not that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. It's not that like while we were in Egypt, we had these like, Freedom 101 classes on what it's going to be like when you leave, or or exactly how to keep the Torah. What did God do? He takes us out, and we go right away to Har Sinai. He starts from the top, and we reenact that awakening Seder night. How? Because Reb Shlomo says the first thing we do the night before we get out of Egypt is that we yell Kadesh. That's the first simon, right? Kadesh, which means tonight God makes me holy. Maybe on an ordinary day it takes 100 years to have a sense of holiness, but when God takes you out of Egypt, He puts you right on top. Okay, this is awesome. By the way, this is why, according to the Zohar Kodesh, Leila Seder is called many names, but the main name, Kabbalistically speaking, is called Moichin de Gadlus, which means an expansive mindset. Meaning, what does that mean? It means you're operating on a much larger scale than you normally would have. This reminds you of something wacky. I watched a very deep movie late last night. I've been jet lagged. My hours are a bit out of it. I watched a very... I was reading this book by Zalman, and he says, I just saw this movie, and I was like, wow, you know what? If he's talking about this in a book, maybe it'd be Kedai. I was praying like it would be good for my eyes and everything, and it was. Chazdei Hashem. It's a very powerful movie, clean, and like obviously, it was like probably like a 1989 movie, and it was called Defending Your Life. I don't know if you've ever seen this, with Meryl Streep, Albert Brooks. Okay, this movie, you saw it? I highly recommend it. It's awesome on many levels. You'll see why. It's like before Rosh Hashanah, it might even be a really cool thing to watch, maybe before Yom Kippur. Because defending your life is more Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah, we're not defending anything. We're flying into it. But one of the things there is that this person that goes to Kivyachol Olam Haba, and he meets all these refined neshamas there that know much more than the people that just went up to Shamayim do. And the person that just died and meets these older souls keeps on saying, how'd you know I was going to say that? Or how'd you know I want that? Or how'd you know I'm like that? He's like, we're operating on 58% of our souls, of our brains. He's like, you want to know how much you're operating on? Well, what's the answer? Does anyone know how? Between 3 to 5, yeah. We operate in this world between 3 to 5% with 3 to 5% of our brains. So, you know what would happen if we were working with 50% of our brains, or maybe 40%? Then our lives, we'd be able to start on the top, like God does with us. So we work with Mochin de Katnut. We work with a very contractive mindset, constricting mindset, but really, like all man does in this world is to go much more out of the shallowness and to work with a lot more. I mean, now just imagine if we're working with 3% of our brains. Can you imagine with how much percent of our soul we're working with? So it's a little bit of a shaker. So Reb Shlomo ends the first paragraph here. So too on Rosh Hashanah, we start from way on top. That's how we're starting the whole show. We're not starting, if a person says, I think that I mastered Tshuva, I'm ready to start on top. He's starting from the lowest place in the world. But Ribono Shel Olam is the one that makes it start on top. He decides I'm starting from up here. How? We'll see in a second. Let me ask you, friends, what's the highest achievement in the world? The greatest achievement is to be one with another human being. Remember the Torah from the Mea Shiloach, this beautiful teaching from the Ishbitzer. There's a bracha that we say under the chuppah. We say b'sher brachas. We say Asher Yatzar Es Ha'adam B'Tzalmo. That under the chuppah we say that man was created in God's image. The Ishbitzer says you should have said that bracha by a bris, or by a baby naming of a girl, by the father's aliyah when he names his daughter, whenever it is, but more at a birthing. Why are you saying that you created man in your image under a chuppah? The Ishbitzer says because you only become godly in this world when you do a godly act. And what's a godly act? Forming oneness with another human being, from taking two and creating one. So that's why Dafka you say that bracha under a chuppah. What makes me one with another human being is my soul, my heart. That part which is most God-like inside of me. But until I get there, I have to go through so much. I have to chop down so much wood. And Dafka, when I think my day is over and I think I'm about to crack that tree down, I realized it just looked like it from it's like the optical illusion from like the angle that I was chopping the wood. If I just, moved around a little bit out of myself, I'd see, oh my God, there's so much more places to chop from different angles. Just the way that I was standing with that tree made me feel like I'm mamish right there. Until people know they have a heart and a soul, they have to go through so much pain. Add the word too. But you know what God does on Rosh Hashanah? The beginning of the year is that God puts us right up there and starts me off with absolute oneness, which is as high as it could be. You see, if we didn't have Rosh Hashanah, do you know what would happen to us? Based on this, do you know what our year would be like? Rosh Hashanah is saving us from drowning in the illusion that I don't really have to be connected to my soul to make it in this world. Because Rosh Hashanah is all neshama. It's all soul. Even the food you eat, it's not really. It's nice to put, apples and honey. Those are all nice things, and the simanim and everything. But like if you ever, those of you who've been to Rabbi Nachman, they start davening 6:30, end at 3:30. The little kiddush of something tiny in the middle, because you're operating mochin de gadlus. It's something else. So funny, bringing me back to this movie, because I just realized something. In this movie, all the newbies there are blown away by the fact that they can eat as much as they want all the time, right? But because they think like that's what oh my God, and I don't gain weight, I can eat as much as I want. But you see all the old neshamas there that are mamish mochin de gadlus. They don't even touch the food because they understand they're operating with much more than where we operate down here. It's an unbelievable thing. This happened to me also, by the way, with a few other movies I saw as a kid, and I didn't understand any of it till 20 years later. I start to understand it now, unfortunately. Okay. So look what Shlomo says, the third paragraph. So if we start from the top, why don't we ask each other for forgiveness on Rosh Hashanah? Let's get clean right away. Why is this left for the days which come right after? If I'm starting so high, for a person to come before somebody and apologize, it takes a lot. I'm talking about the real apologies, not the ones that you say because you're trying to sound holy. I'm so sorry if that time you came to my house for Shabbos, my wife didn't cook exactly what you wanted. Like, not those shtuyot kind of things. We're talking about the things where you need to cry yourself, you need to cry in a shema out in a forest, which leads you to say I'm sorry to somebody else. So what would be a great time for that? Let's start from the top, Rosh Hashanah. And yet, Rosh Hashanah, you're not busy asking anybody for mechila. In fact, you're barely talking. It's a big minhag, it's an important thing. First day Rosh Hashanah, no talking. Just davening. Walk around Uman the first day Rosh Hashanah, it's unbelievable. After the Seudah. The older Hasidim, I remember the first year I went, I couldn't believe it. I went Friday, the first year I went was 2000. And I remember Friday, Yontiv night, after the meal, I was so excited to be with so many special people. I was like, wow, I can't wait to be with them at the meal. We were staying by Chaim Kramer's house. They called it the Waldorf Astoria back then of Uman. And sitting at the table, I'm so excited to have my questions and everything. And whenever I ask somebody a question, it'd be like,
yeah.
everyone, Ashreinu. They were, I just started niggling instead of speaking. So you're not even using those words. It's very big. It's a very big inyan. First day Rosh Hashanah. You have plenty of time to talk. You have plenty of time to. One thing you do is you give each other brachas. It should be a sweet to your goodness. Not b'shefa. More than that, it's not the data for anything that doesn't need to be said that should be said. I'm sure it's clear to you. The greatest sickness in the world is anger. It takes a lifetime to cleanse ourselves from anger. How many marriages fall apart because of anger? How many friendships stop because of anger? How many people stop being a little bit religious because they're angry at God? It's a very sharp statement, because most people that maybe were into Yiddishkeit and then took off, it's not usually that they had a peaceful, a peaceful journey out of Yiddishkeit. Usually was a result of this, tough situation with God, with yourself, or with somebody else, and there was an anger component which then drove you out. But it's not like Shabbos was so high, but I don't know. I feel like the beach could be even sweeter. That's not a person. That's not how you don't go like that. That's not what drives you. It's more, there's an anger element which drives you out of that place. Everything is anger. No, it's gonna seem like there's a lot of different pieces here, but trust me, there's a beautiful mahalach going on over here. In the deepest depths, all the mistakes we make, it's only because we're full of anger inside. Anger is such a disease. A few weeks ago in the studio, this guy came to visit someone else that was recording, and he looked at me, and I asked him for something. I said, dude, you're so full of anger. And I was like, what are you out of your mind? What are you talking? I said, okay. He was smiling at me like, It's mamash, like he says here, anger is such a disease. When you live with anger, you have no vision and you don't know what to do. So here I want you to know, Chavra, Rav Kook is the Rebbe of Elul. You know this, right? Everyone here knows this. Rav Kook is the Rebbe. He's really the Rebbe of all Rebbes, but he's really the Rebbe of Elul. Oros Tshuva, you can't really, in today's day and age, you can't be standing before the king without having a little taste of Rav Kook in the month of Elul. And what's up? There's no way. So Rav Kook says in the 3rd chapter, we're learning now, in Mechaber and Efrat, we're learning the 3rd chapter is something really amazing. Rav Kook says that there's this general feeling that sometimes people sense where they're doing everything halachically right, and they're not saying bad about anybody. They're not hurting anybody. They're not machalaling anything. But they feel such a sense. What?
Louder.
They feel, so these people, during the month of Elul, they feel such a sense. I'm talking about like getting rid of anger. When you talk louder, it sounds angrier sometimes. So imagine I'm whispering right now, okay? There's these people that Rav Kook says, there's a general, it's called Tshuva Stamit Klalit. This is the 3rd chapter. There's this general sense of, I'm doing everything right, but I don't have a vision of my life. Rav Kook says those people they have a really deep world of tshuva to connect to, because when you know what you're supposed to work on, and you have the guts and the courage to put it right in front of you and not ignore it, your vision is focused. It's a specific thing you're working on. But when you have no idea what it is that you're supposed to be working on, but it's a general sense of feeling estranged and feeling far from anything, you have no vision. You have nothing to work with. Ever happened to you that you're doing everything right? You're not doing aveiras per se that you know of, and you're fixed a lot of different inyanim in your life that need to be fixed, but there's still this general picture of I'm far. The flow of the river of love, the river of chiyut, of vitality, of life, it's not flowing through me. So we could, like they say, we could touch this, we could connect this into it. Is it saying that must mean that deep down inside, it's mazel tov. You did a lot of work and everything's good. Things are good, but there's one nikuda that maybe isn't cleansed, and that's anger. Anger is the greatest illusion in the world, because it hides behind so many different masachim, veils of our neshama, and we always think, especially when we worked on so many things, I worked with it. No, but anger is this one nekuda that causes a person to lose his sense of vision, of focus, of direction. He says it beautifully. He says it really beautiful here. Heartbreakingly beautiful. He says, when you live with anger, you have no vision. You don't know what to do. You're not yourself. Now listen to what he says here. When he said this on the tape, he was like frightening the way he said it. The Arizal says that whenever you do something wrong, your soul is still with you. Like you're doing Avera, your soul is still hanging amongst you. Maybe that's why you feel guilty. Hopefully. Your soul is sad from what you're doing, but your soul doesn't take off. When you're full of anger, your soul mamish can't stand you. It's as if it's saying, I'll wait for you until you stop being angry. Meaning, I can't be amongst you. You're not going to feel me alive. Who you are and what you're about and the direction you need to go through in life and the vision that you have and that you need of yourself, you don't get a taste of that vision amongst anger. Because when you're in an angry place, the soul itself is whispering to you, I can't live with you. I can't. It's either me or you. Meaning, it's either the illusion of you or me, the soul is saying. Because obviously anger is such an illusion, right? Okay, so here he says like this. The Arizal says the most awesome thing. If we would have real heavenly eyes, we would see that an angry person looks dead. You hear that sentence again, Chevra, in the back. If you could, I don't know if you have the copies, but just to hear this sentence, even without having, if we would have real heavenly eyes, we would see that an angry person looks dead. Even without having heavenly eyes, you can sense what angry people look like. He says an amazing thing which will help us understand what kind of an neshama we're speaking about. I remember when I was 5 years old, at that time we were living in Vienna. A woman came to visit my parents, and I was told that this woman is supposedly the most beautiful woman in Austria. I wanted to see who she is. She was sitting there, and she called up her husband on the phone, and she was angry with him. I was looking at her, and her face was so ugly. I ran into my mother, and I said, she's not beautiful. She looks like the angel of death. Just like any 5-year-old says about these kind of things, right? Full of anger. Okay, so now we're getting to now we're going to bring this concept home. Yom Kippur is very holy. But on Yom Kippur, I'm standing before God and I'm saying, please forgive me for what I did wrong. Which means that I assume that God is a little bit angry at me that I did wrong. But right now we're talking about Rosh Hashanah, a day where for some holy reason I don't assume that God is mad at me. What he just said right now breaks through. It breaks through everything. We have to emphasize this. Why don't I say sorry on Rosh Hashanah? Because the Machzor doesn't tell me to? You think we're that shallow that I only express to God what the Machzor tells me to express to God? On a general, bless you, on a general le'om, on a national level, on an Am Yisrael level, why isn't there the crying out to God on Rosh Hashanah? It's the beginning. Please, I'm sorry. That's what it should be. We're starting over again. Please, this time let it last. You know why? Because something happens during Rosh Hashanah that I just simply stopped assuming for 48 hours that God is angry at me. You know what it does to the neshama? It's freedom. I'm free again. I'm free. It's a freedom. It's different than Pesach. It has some kind of a similarity, but there's this sense of absolute freedom to taste what I'm all about. But it's not our doing. I didn't do this. It is coming from a different place. The fact that for one day, for a Yoma Arichta, Chazal call it one long day, I don't feel that the Ribono Shel Olam is angry at me. You know how beautiful that God, you know how beautiful Hashem, you know what it is for God? That one long day a year, His children just throw away all these, chatterbox games that go on in their head. Am I holy? Am I not? Just for 48 hours, it doesn't even matter. That doesn't mean now it's time to do Averas because God's not angry at me. You have no desire to ever do anything that might strip you away from the Ribono Shel Olam. But I'm going to read this line again. He says, right now we're talking about Rosh Hashanah, a day where for some holy reason, I don't assume that God is mad at me. I don't ask God for forgiveness when I don't feel there is a reason to. You hear that? I don't ask Mechila. If I don't really need to ask Mechila from somebody, if there's no reason that's pushing me to say I'm sorry, why would I come up to you and say I'm sorry? What God is shining into me on Rosh Hashanah is that there is no anger in my heart, and God is not angry at me either. I want you to know something. I'm sure you agree with me. Can you prove or disprove that someone is holy? If someone says they're holy, mazel tov. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. A holy person is someone who is one with the whole world. Doesn't get any higher than this. Like the way the holy Baal Shem Tov was even able to be one with the animals. You know this story? I'm sure you've heard this story. That it was the Chassidim, the Baal Shem Tov, maybe the next generation, they heard that when the Baal Shem Tov was doing his thing in the fields of Medjugorje, all the animals would mamish go behind him in like a shayara, in like a caravan of just like a whole chevra. He was one with creation. So it was the Kamarna. The Kamarna went back to Medjugorje, and he asked the old peasants there, and they would describe to him what Friday night looked like in the fields of Medjugorje, when everyone's cats, chickens, and dogs, and whatever it was, would go out to the field with the Baal Shem Tov because his neshama was drawing oneness to the world. Yeah, I've shared this with you many times, those of you who are here and those of you who are learning with us online. One of the wackiest answers that Reb Shlomo ever gave to who is he was on Israeli television in 1971, where he was asked, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Shlomo. I love God. I love the Torah. I love every Jew. I love every non-Jew." And he pauses, and he said, "I even love dogs." And he said this he wasn't like trying to make a joke. He said, "Wow, when I think about it, I have love even for animals." And that, like usually you say to somebody, "Who are you?" "I am a," fill in the achievement. That's how people answer that question. My definition is fill in the achievement. I once stated a very special, I love this. I saw it with my own eyes, for real, one time. I went to Boston for a Shabbos, snowy Shabbos. Snowiest Shabbos of my life. Just a few years ago. Even they said it was like the most snow that they had. It was like a whole winter, wherever I went, I was going to like New York, Montreal, the whole East. I'm from LA, I have nothing to do with this kind of reality. And I went there and I'm like, okay, there was snow up to like my knees, and I'm tall, right? So I'm thinking, oh, whatever, at least, the Oneg will be canceled or whatever, something will be canceled. Maybe I can maybe rest more. I don't know. Whatever, that was my first thought. And like the Yashar right away give me like a huge, like a whole snow geschäft. Yeah, like a whole snow suit. I'm like, what is this? Like, what do you mean? This is what you wear when it's like this. I'm like, you do stuff when it's like this? There's life happens when it's like this, right? I didn't know. But anyway, I remember that Shabbos very clearly because this beautiful Yid, Baruch Hashem, who came back home and left Boston and made Aliyah this summer. And when he made Aliyah, he emailed me. He said to let me know that he making Aliyah. He wrote me, "We just killed Sichon." Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but there's a whole Torah, the Sichon Melech Cheshbon. He writes to me, we just killed Sichon Melech Cheshbon. It's not for now. That's how I knew he was making Aliyah. It was so beautiful. But I asked him when I got there, I said, so what do you do? And he said to me straight out, he says, you know, I really don't like to answer. I'm just going to let you know that the answer I'm going to give you is not what you're used to hearing, because I really don't believe that person should answer in the form of a definition of his achievement or what he's doing in this world. So he says, yeah, so I do this and that. What do I do? I'm really like so big on, I'm becoming more of a father every day. I'm spending so much time with my kinderlach, like some kind of answer like that. You know, that's being one with your kids. If your answer is, who are you, what do you do, and you first talk about your children, that means you're one with the gifts that the Ribono Shel Olam gave you in your world. But there's a trick here. There's a trick, there's a scary thing that takes place over here. Okay? What's the scary thing which we're going to be ending with? I just learned this afternoon with a dear friend. Later on in Oros HaTshuva, Rav Kukra says like this. Chapter 4, paragraph 5. He says, Be'emet, this is what's so, it's liberating, but it's such a hard thing to snap out of. He says, Be'emet, אי אפשר להתרומם אל התשוקה הרוחנית של ישועת הכלל. Rav Kook says it's impossible to elevate towards having a sincere spiritual passion for the redemption of the world בלי תשובה פנימית עמוקה מכל חטא ועוון, without sincerely cleaning out your kishkas from Tumah. He's saying something that's, you know, Rav Kook is like Kivyachol, the Rebbe of peace and love, and this is a peace and love statement. But boy, what this is a Chotei Veitzecha peace and love statement. You know, this is a statement that you have to chop on through so much wood to get through. He says, you really say that you love the world? You really say that you have a sincere desire that the whole universe should be, the planet should be healed? You really say that you have a shukah ruchanit, spiritual passion for the Yeshua of the cloud, for the redemption of everyone? He says, don't kid yourself. You can't be one with other people unless you are one with yourself. There's no way. It won't work. And even if it works, it'll crumble. Whatever it is that you built. There's no netzach there. There's no eternity there. So Reb Shlomo says in the next paragraph this. So what are we doing in preparation for this holiness which is going to take place on Rosh Hashanah? I have to become one with myself, which is harder than it all. Because Gewalt, am I angry at myself. Gewalt is everyone angry at themselves. Rosh Hashanah is the day to find a new way and stop being angry at myself. Rosh Hashanah, and why is this? Why is this so? Because Rosh Hashanah is the day when God created man. God formed a man from the earth, and then Vayipach be'apaf, right? Then God blew a soul into this man. So on Rosh Hashanah, when we blow the shofar, God is blowing my neshama back into me. Humanly speaking, God takes out my soul and cleans it. By God, it doesn't take any time. In this one split second, God takes out my neshama, cleanses me, blows it in again. At that moment, I am as pure as before I was born. I want you to know, Reb Shlomo described one time what kept him a Yidla his whole life. There were a few examples of this, but the one that sticks out the most to me, that I always think about, always, is what he said the Frierdiker Rebbe, the 6th Rebbe of Lubavitch, looked like the second after the Rebbe took off his talis, Tkiyas Shofar, Rosh Hashanah. He said the redness of the face, the fumes that were coming out, the look of, Bichlal, the Frierdiker Rebbe's face is one of the most beautiful diukanim, one of the most beautiful faces that God ever created in this world. And the Frierdiker Rebbe's face, I can't look at him for too long. He puts me in such a place of awe. And Reb Shlomo says he remembers when he took that talis off his face, he says, talking about how red his face was. And by the Rebbe, by the 7th Rebbe, by Tkiyas, the crying that you would hear coming from underneath his talis, the screaming and crying that would come from underneath the Rebbe's talis during the blowing of the shofar, was the closest thing to the purity of when the baby comes into this world and starts crying, and everyone knows that the first crying of the baby is the sign of life. So when those cries come out, it's a sign of I am alive and it's all new. It's like a baby coming into this world. That can only happen when anger is removed from the picture. That can't happen while you're in this, I'm trying to get over, whatever I'm getting over. It can't happen otherwise. It just doesn't happen any other way. Tkiyas Shofar, that's Rosh Hashanah is the Shofar. Rosh Hashanah is that moment of Tkiyas Shofar. That's really Rosh Hashanah. So he ends off and says, and in a certain deep way, this is the secret of resurrection, which is taking place during that blowing of the shofar, right? Because honestly, it's like I'm coming back in another Gilgul when I hear the shofar without having to go through a lot of crazy stuff in the next world. It's like down here already. While I'm here, I'm kind of going through a tikkun. I'm kind of going through like a Gilgul of my neshama, but without having to be reincarnated in a different form. God is saying, here. Don't wait until you come up here after 120 years, and we have to figure out, do you have to come back for another Gilgul or not, or did you do a tikkun or not? It's here. And this oneness that we experience down here, this oneness is really the secret of being Chiyas HaMesim, of the resurrection of the dead. And I'm telling you, Chaver, this can happen at any given moment. At any given moment in your life, you can tune into this, but the moment when it really takes place without your avoda, without you trying too hard, Elul is Chotev Eitzecha. Ad, Rosh Hashanah on a certain level is Shoev Meimecha. I'm drawing in the water. Rosh Hashanah with that Kiesh, I'm drawing in the Nun Neshama. I'm drawing it in. But it can happen when, as God wants it to happen. And it can happen at any given, you see, this is what's so hard to realize. And we'll end with this. Thank you. If I would ask any of you right now, do you really want the whole world to be redeemed? What would you say? Say yes, and it's real. It's real. Can you imagine a person that would want to say, I really don't want the whole world to be redeemed? Unfortunately, yes. In fact, we're surrounded by millions and millions of people who don't want the whole world to be redeemed. We're a people who wants the whole world to be redeemed. We desire this oneness more than any other people in the world. This is what we're made out of. This is our light. So for us to be Yidden, and like Reb Shlomo always said, the world is waiting for us to become Yidden, anger must be removed. We can work on it through all of Elul, and we have to do whatever we can. Like Rav Kook says, you really want to say that you're authentic and you want good things for the Yeshua of the Klal? It's a beautiful thing to want. Don't kid yourself. Without Tshuva, it won't happen. We got to keep on doing what we're doing as long as that anger really, really is removed. And it's a gift that we start off from here, Rosh Hashanah, during Tekiyas Shofar. That moment, we're starting from way up on top. That's a moment that's given to us to hold on to. The more tshuva that you do during Elul, and listen to this, this is very important, the more tshuva that you're doing during the month of Elul, real deep tshuva, the better rhythm you get into, the rhythm of tshuva during the month of Elul, the more that moment of Vayipach Be'apaf Nishmas Chaim, the more that moment of receiving a new neshama lasts during the year. All we're doing in Elul is a preparation for Tekiyas Shofar. And the more you work on it, right now we have how many days? We have a week left, right?
Exactly.
We have a week till Rosh Hashanah. The more we work on it now, the longer that Tekiyah lasts. Some people live off the Tekiyah all year long. Some people, mamish, live off the Tekiyah all year long. And you know what's so high and holy? I shouldn't say this because it'll ruin whatever Asayis Mitzvah shir we have, but it's, you know, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. No. No way. No way. Let's go to Rosh Hashanah first. Let's just go to Rosh Hashanah first. Ashreinu shezachinu atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, that we're standing together. La'amod l'slichos, saying Ribbono shel Olam. What am I saying sorry for? So what am I saying sorry for? Everyone together. That we really do want to be together forever. But I'm sorry, I'm so sorry that I still haven't mastered what it means to be one with myself. Tzadmer, that's what you said. Is that I still haven't mastered the art of understanding what it means to not just forgive myself, but ask mechila for myself. Because the real me wanted to take care of my neshama all the time. The real me never wanted me to ever do an avera. Ever. Ever. The real me never, ever, ever wanted, nor will ever want, to create any mechitza between me and kirvas Elokim, being close to God. The real me never wants that. Ever, ever, ever. So you look at each other from now on till Rosh Hashanah, you look in the mirror and you say, who's the real me? Who's the real, what does the real me want? And Bezrat Hashem, anger will be a thing of the past by the time that we reach the Shofar. So sing one more nigun. This is actually a nigun that there's a nigun that came down here at this table like 3 or 4 years ago. Shabbos Nitzavim, right before Rosh Hashanah. Atem Nitzavim Em Kulchem. And we just recorded it. So I wanted to sing it one time, teach it to you. And sing it strongly one more time. Chaver, we gotta daven over everything we learned right now, okay? Gotta daven really strong everything we just learned. So listen to Nick and sing it with me. Learn it one time and sing it with me. If you know it, Mamash, right here. This is the recording. Ibiroi Shashanahi Kasevon Oveyoi Tzayim Yechasevon Ibiroi Shashanahi Kasevon Oveyoi Tzayim Yechasevon Ibiroi Shashanahi Kasevon Oveyoi Eloai Shashanahi Kasevon Oveyoi Tzayim Yechaseinu U'tshuvas Tfilah U'tzedakah Ma'afirin Etzloya It's Tshuva's V'nahu Tzedaka Ma'avirin es v'yatzeina Tshuva's V'nahu Tzedaka Ma'avirin es v'yatzeina It's Tshuva's V'nahu Tzedaka Ma'avirin es v'yatzeina Shashana, Kibasei, Yoitzan Kiboyechasei. Tshuva's V'nahu Tzedaka, Ma'avirin es v'yatzeina. Tshuva's V'nahu Tzedaka, Ma'avirin es v'yatzeina. Shos, Nachamas, Nekamas. Amen. Sweetness.
Do you want to say something?
Yes, I thank you so much, everybody. Really, I'm so grateful that all of us can share this together, and I really, really hope that everyone in the world is going to be able to receive that sweetness that Hashem wants all of us to have.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you so much. When do we have another date, right? What is it? October 1st? Wednesday, October